Hi everybody, welcome in today. My name is Jane and you're in my library, if you can't tell. Today I'm going to be ringing the bell of repetition that YouTubers just love to talk about, and that is TikTok and how much it is ruining things, specifically fan fiction. If you haven't heard, there has recently been some drama around the fact that some fanfics, some very popular fan fiction, and their author has been deleted off of the internet, never to be seen again. Now, a lot of people have these downloaded, that's not unusual, but in common space, you will not find these fan fictions again. They've been deleted, and that is because of some people on TikTok and what they're doing that is illegal with fan fiction. Because if you don't know, fan fiction is legal to a point, and they have crossed that point. So let me tell you, listen, if you don't know, on TikTok there's something called Book Talk, which is a book reading community talking about books, and it's book lovers, librarians, booksellers, some authors, book reviewers. I am on Book Talk. It's fun. It's fun. It's enjoyable. Now, that Book Talk overlaps with something else called fan fiction or fandom talk. I don't know if that's their actual term, but I know that usually it's just called whatever fandom it is. So if it's like Percy Jackson, it'll be Percy Jackson talk, like that. But it's fandom. That overlaps with a lot of readers, a lot of book talk. That makes sense, right? To have fandom, you have to have a source, and a lot of times the source are books. Now, because that community overlaps, fan fiction has exploded in popularity in the last couple years. Now, this makes sense for multiple reasons. One, COVID sucked. You were stuck inside all day, and fan fiction is free. Another thing is that the popularity of fan fiction being published has started to happen. So, this has already become a thing that's been happening for a while because we saw this happen with 50 Shades of Grey, which is a Twilight fan fiction, and that came out in like 2015 or something. Like, I was a child when that came out, so it's been out for a little while, right? And then there's also more recent books that have been published that were fan fiction. A lot of Raylo fanfics, a lot of Ali Hazelwood books used to be or are inspired by Raylo fan fiction. The Hurricane Wars, I believe, was Raylo fan fiction. Naomi Novik is a fan fiction writer, and she wrote the very popular Scholomance series. She also wrote the Tamar series, I believe. And she's the founder, one of the founders of Archive of Our Own, which is the largest fan fiction archive site on the internet today, which is revolutionary compared to the early 2000s internet, where we had a website for every single fandom, and so much work is lost there. Now, that being said, a lot of people have done a lot of work to archive that work onto Archive of Our Own, but fandom has become a lot more standardized in that it is legally pretty much protected now. You don't have Anne Rice coming out of her grave to sue you. It is become more widely accepted. Cringe is dead kind of thing with fan fiction has kind of happened, especially with the more popular ships, the more popular fandoms, and especially in the spicier areas of book talk. Now, spicy book talk, many of us are aware of because romance book talk is a large section of book talk, at least the part that you find when you first get into book talk. You can find your own niche, but spicy romance book talk flourishes in recommendations, okay? They also like fan fiction because you can find spicy fan fiction up the wazoo everywhere that you could possibly need it, okay? It's accessible, it's free, it's usually better than the published stuff. Like, they're gonna go for it. That's fine. It's a little problematic to only be reading for spiciness and not for anything else, but different video, different topic. But the other aspect of people dealing with fan fiction is that they're starting to treat it like an industry the way that, books are. They're treating it like the book industry. And so fan fiction is ending up on websites like Goodreads where they're getting reviews the way that you would review a book. Now, people tend to love fan fiction with their whole heart and soul a lot more and not criticize the aspects of a certain fan fiction because that's not what fan fiction is for, okay? Fandom etiquette states that you respect the fan fiction because you're respecting the free labor that this author is doing for you out of the love of their own heart to publish this online and just give it to you. Okay? The entire transaction is anti capitalist because it's not a transaction. It is a free, loving reveal of work that you're doing for other people to just enjoy. And it's just like, you can't treat it like they're books that you can just review with 3 stars. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So that being said, there are a lot of people who love the fan fictions, and that's great. Welcome in, enjoy the fan fiction, but maybe read the rules or talk to someone who knows what they're talking about before you start downloading them, printing them out, binding them, and then illegally selling them to other people for money and making money not only off of other authors, but also breaking the law. Welcome to today's topic. So basically what happened is fan fiction is only fan fiction is only legal under the Fair Use Copyright Act. So according to the U.S. Copyright Office, copyright.gov, Section 107 of the Copyright Act states that fair use promotes freedom of expression by, quote, permitting the unlicensed use of copyright protected works in certain circumstances. Certain circumstances. What are those circumstances, you may ask? I'm so glad you asked. Now, the purpose of this act is to encourage creative expression and transformative works, basically. So we'll get to that. Basically, the first circumstance can be for nonprofit or educational reasons that do not make any or very little money, and it's mostly for non-monetary reasons. That's how schools can use cartoon characters from shows and etc., right? The other part of this first circumstance is transformative works. Now, quote, transformative uses are those that add something new with a further purpose or a different character and do not substitute for an original work, do not substitute for the original use of the work, okay? So you can't post like the entire Percy Jackson first book online at all. You can post a fan fiction retelling of Percy Jackson if he met Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. That's fine, because Rick Riordan was never gonna do that, okay? He just wasn't, okay? That is transformative work beyond the scope of the original work. That is fine. Now, Lord of the Rings might come for you. Tolkien's estate is brutal when it comes to Lord of the Rings anything, okay? But Rick Riordan's not going to come for you. You're generally protected under this copyright law. Now, the other aspects of this have to do with the amount of copyrighted material used. So that's why you can't just copy paste an entire book online and call it fan fiction, because it's just not. It has to be transformative in some way. So the copyrighted material that's used has to be monitored, and really that is very subjective, because if a small amount of work is used, but it's like the, quote, heart of the work, that can also get copyright stricken, even if it's far less amount than you would think you would need to be copyright stricken. Does that make sense? It's not super relevant to the fan fiction, but it is there. The fourth thing, which also affects fan fiction, is the effect, quote, the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of copyrighted work. Basically, does this unlicensed work harm the existing or future market for the copyright owner's original work? So, for example, this hypothetical Percy Jackson fan fiction with Aragorn in it, is this directly stopping people from purchasing the Percy Jackson books, and instead they're only reading this online thing and then they're maybe selling it to other people, right? Okay, you get what I'm saying. It's just, anyway, so because of this has been around for a while. There was a case in 1995 that basically set up fair use, and ever since there have been lots of battles. Early 2000s fandom was just, there were so many conflicts. Anne Rice was a problem. If you were in the fandom spaces in early 2000s, you would often see a lot of disclaimers on fan fiction, or even sometimes even just like fan ideas, like fan theories. Mostly fan fiction though. So if you ever go on fanfiction.net, you can go back to the early 2000s timeline wise, and you can see there's a lot of disclaimers. And so there'll be disclaimers like, I do not own the characters, the setting, or the story of enter original copyright. I do not own any rights to enter original source. all rights belong to original creator. And so like there was this huge respect for what fan fiction was and how much could be taken away from us if we didn't follow these copyright rules. And like some companies or copyright holders go so far as to like give you guides to avoid copyright strikes. I know Hasbro did that. And I think Star Trek, I'm trying to remember, there was another one that did that too. But fan fiction is respected and feared by a lot of different groups for different reasons. And that's okay. That's okay. Fan fiction can be a divisive topic, and that's all right. But basically, up until 2015, 2016, fan fiction had these disclaimers on it because people knew better, basically. And they knew their fandom etiquette. They just straight up knew what they were doing, and they weren't gonna they weren't gonna risk fan fiction being taken away from you, basically, because it could be if people started binding them and trying to sell them, okay? So that's what was happening in the early 2000s. Now, what's happening now, as I've hinted at loudly, multiple different people are printing out fan fiction, binding it, and then selling it to other people. I'm not going to put anyone on blast. However, there are different versions of what people are doing. A couple people are only charging for the price of the materials that it takes for them to make it. So they're not charging for labor, they're not charging for the fanfic, they're not charging for time or anything. They're only charging for the materials. This is, if there was an ethical way to do this, this was probably the most ethical way, but it's still really bridging on it's still illegal. It's still breaking that copyright rule. It just is. There's no way to get around it. What you can do is you can make it yourself and keep it. And that's what a lot of people did, especially in previous years in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. People just printed it out or wrote it out sometimes, and bound it or put it in a notebook or put it in a binder or something and kept it for themselves or passed it around their friend group for free privately, and that is fine. You can still do that. I still do that, okay? The illegal part is the selling, okay? And doing it for other people. There's been a lot of different ways people have been doing this as well. Some people are charging for the fan fiction. There have been reports of people selling online EPUBs of the fan fiction behind paywalls, and it's like, do you know you can just Google this and find it on AO3? It just doesn't like make it make sense. You know what I mean? Other people are charging for labor and materials and fan fiction itself, and they're making money off of it, like straight up making money off of it. And that's again illegal and against copyright. And it's also very much like it's not only you that's breaking the law, it's also you dragging in the poor authors who just were trying to like have some fun. You're dragging them into what could be a lawsuit, because when lawsuits over copyright happen, they go after everybody. They go after the person selling it, they go after the person who made it, they go after the people who maybe have it on their drives. Like, it is a threat to everyone. You're not just, dipping your toes in a little crime for yourself. You're like dipping the entire fandom into crime, okay? So the fanfiction that was deleted, I have never read, and it is part of the Harry Potter fandom, which, to be clear, I don't support Rowling or Harry Potter or any of the franchises or anything, and I try and distance myself from it. But this was a Draco and Hermione pairing, and that pairing is probably currently the most popular pairing on the internet. Previously, it's been other pairings, but I think the straight community has just got their grips, specifically the spicy book talk people really like Hermione, okay? And that's Hermione. It's Hermione. Sometimes I say it wrong. Hermione. So these two works were deleted. So the first one was Breathmint's Battle Scars, and the second one I don't remember the name of, but it was in process. So that one hadn't been bound yet because people tend to only take the finished ones and bind them. For obvious reasons, it's a lot of work. And this was by an author called Onyx and Elm, and they had a Tumblr, And they decided about 3 days ago to take down all of their works and leave the community permanently because of the mistreatment of them and because of the mistreatment of their works, and the fact that people are continuing to bind and sell these books in mass amounts, and it's just not slowing down. Okay. This is obviously an example of what's happening in multiple fandom spaces. The thing is I've seen it the most happening with Dreamini fanfiction. I don't know what it is, but it's like catnip to people. And so there's a lot of them being posted online. I went on Etsy myself, found multiple listings within a couple of minutes. You can report these listings because they can be taken down, but Etsy is really not, they don't care. Etsy doesn't care. Etsy's not a good website, okay? For other reasons, Etsy's not a good website. So about a year ago, in April of 2023, she posted an update about binding and fan art. This was a year ago, mind you, okay? So this has been going on for a while, before and after this post that she made. So this is what she said, and I'll put it on the screen so you can read it for yourself. After I've seen going on with the fan binding and fandom art recently, I feel the need to update my policy. I am no longer comfortable allowing any exchanges of funds in order to receive bindings or art commissions relating to my fandom works. This includes commissioning bindings, even if paying for materials only, participating in auctions, commissioning art related to fan works, buying typesets of my work, or paying for Patreon tiers to be entered into giveaways. So anything that monetarily is related to her work, she is asking people to stop. And ideally, because she is the author of this, we would respect her because she has done a lot of free labor for us, and it's only fair that we are receptive and we are kind in return and thankful and grateful for what she has done for us. But no, that's not what happened at all. She said, quote, I am still perfectly fine with binders and artists creating pieces for themselves or as gifts of for others, but if any sort of donation, commission fee, membership fee, or cost of the materials is being charged, it is not with my permission. The legality of fandom is fragile and we need to keep it free. So she said in like 2 seconds what I've been saying for like 20 minutes in this video. And people who are older in the fandom know this. People who are older in fandoms in general know this. They have lived through times where Archive of Our Own didn't exist and fanfiction could just go down on whatever website you posted it on, okay? They know how much they have gained in the last years, in the last couple of years, 10 years, and how much they could stand to lose if people don't keep respecting fandom spaces and the etiquette within them. And like usually there's always been someone overstepping etiquette. That's just what happens when it's a free space and anyone can come in. The problem is the the multitude of people doing this. So that was a year ago in April. So then on in September of last year, okay, so she uploaded her fandom policies again, once again reminding people that she does not allow monetary capitalism does not touch her fic. That is what she's saying. You stop it, you filthy capitalist pigs, okay? That's what she's saying. These are her fandom policies. Once again, she says nonprofit book binding is fine. You are welcome to print them out and keep them for yourselves or give them to your friends as gifts without any money attached. That is fine. That's fine. You can do that. Literally just don't sell it. It's not hard. Just don't sell the work that you bound. Just don't. Okay? Don't bring capitalism into this. Fandom is already based in a lot of capitalism. We don't need more of it, okay? Obviously she says a lot of things. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to read the relevant parts. She's against AI. She's okay with typesets. I actually don't know what those are. She does not want them posted anywhere else except for AO3. This is also an issue people are having where people are downloading fan fiction off of AO3 because fan fiction has a membership wall. It's not a paywall. You can sign up for free. But there's a membership wall and you can make your fics so that they're only available for other members, and this prevents things like AI using your work, people stealing your work, people stealing it for multitude of reasons, but people have been downloading them and uploading them to Wattpad and like Quotive and all these other websites that don't have as stringent of policies, and that's just not cool, because then you're also in a way getting accolades, usually getting accolades for this when you're not the writer, and it's against the writer's wishes. Like, guys, please, basically all of this is coming down to is respect the frickin' law, and also respect the creative work that these authors are putting in, fan artists are putting into the fandom, and realize that we wouldn't have fandom without this fan created work that is happening here. And if people are going to keep insulting it and mistreating it and disrespecting it, we're just not going to have fandom spaces like what we're used to having. And while things can always bounce back, that's awful. That's just it, there's so much history in fandom and so much representation that people find for themselves in fandom, and to disrespect the work, the free labor that people put in for that is just not cool. Like, you can leave, you know? Um, anyway, so that was in September. She said, please stop selling my stuff. Please respect what I have to say. She also explicitly says, do not add or rate my works on Goodreads. She says fandom is a hobby, not an industry, and I agree. That's what I said basically earlier. Fandom is not capitalism. Fandom is not the book industry. Fan fiction was never meant to be critically looked at in a book review way. Okay. That being said, there are some rancid things that happen in fanfic, but the whole point is the creative, free expression. Okay. So she says this in September of last year, right? Then November 28th comes around of, again, last year. So a month after her September post. And she says, this is about translations. Someone translated her work before, and they basically left a bunch of really mean comments in a different language on her work, basically insulting her work and her intelligence. And she won't allow translations anymore because she can't read them and doesn't know. She can't proofread and make sure that they're not misrepresenting her work, basically. And this is just, again, another example of fanfic writers not being respected for what they're doing. She's like, I know this is not ideal, but please stop asking and please stop just doing it, okay? Thank you. So, all of that happens last year. Bookbinding continues. TikTok, multiple bookbinding TikToks have blown up, and people have become more popular and are making more money and are getting commissions, and just nothing's stopping. And people are continuing to basically act like fan fiction is book talk. It's the book industry, not book talk. So today is February 27th, so 3 days ago was February 24th. She puts out a statement on her blog. It's still pinned there. Her Tumblr blog is Onyx and Elm, Onyx-and-Elm. If you want to find it, but I also, again, put screenshots on the screen. And she says, due to the seemingly unstoppable monetization of fandom and the sheer volume of illegal fan bindings being sold, I will be pulling all of my works within the next few days. Thank you for those of you who worked so hard to keep fandom free, and to all of you who supported my writing. It was fun while it lasted. Heart emoji. So basically everyone messed around and found out. And now this is the consequences of your actions, essentially. You don't get to have fandom if you can't behave in it. She has repeatedly asked people to respect her work, respect copyright law, don't drag her into possibly a lawsuit. Like, these are basic decencies that people just don't seem to have, and this is a larger issue, and capitalism is at fault here, but I'm also gonna blame TikTok, okay? The younger people and the people who are younger in fandom, I mean people who are newer to fandom, not young age-wise, young fandom-wise, do not know how to behave in these fandom spaces, and they're not listening to their fandom elders, and it is showing, and they don't deserve it. They don't deserve the treatment. The fandom people don't deserve the treatment they're getting, basically. Now, this is also, the line has been blurred for fan fiction. And I realize that the line has been blurred because of publishing rewritten, previously fan fiction, now original works into public spaces. We know a lot of times when a book was once fan fiction and now it is a book, and now it's a book talk favorite or whatever. Allie Hazelwood is an example. If you don't know about Cassandra Clare, there's a lot of really good videos about it. Cassandra Clare has a lot of fan fiction roots in her work as well. I'm trying to remember who else, but you guys know what I mean. And so fan fiction has started to get published a lot more, and that's great because we love to see the fan artists or the fan authors getting the recognition and the accolades that they really deserve for their creativity, for their hard work, but without breaking the law. You know? without selling fan fiction. Okay? And so it's really cool to see people getting what they deserve, accolades wise. There's another fan fiction that's in the Harry Potter community that has it's kind of like crossed fandoms in a way, because I've seen it being recommended to a lot of people just to have a dark romance to read, which is weird because once I tell you what it is, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. And I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who hasn't, again, been in the fandom. And it's a book called it's a fan fiction called Manacled, and it's by Sen Lin Yu. I'll put her name on the screen. I don't know if I pronounced it right. And it's very popular. It is extremely popular. People are crying about it on TikTok. I've read it even. Everyone knows what it is, basically. It is a dark retelling, not a retelling, it's a dark addition to what if, basically it's what if Harry Potter went a different way and Voldemort won, and it's kind of a weird, dark regime thing. I read it. It was really just a lot of, torture corn. So I'm not sure how I feel about it, but the thing is, she is a really good writer, and she got picked up for a book deal, and so she will be removing Manacled off of the internet in the next year because she's rewriting it into a original creative work, which I think is great because I really would rather enjoy it as not a Harry Potter fan fiction and as just its own thing, because it basically is. But that has happened recently as well, and so I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting where fan fiction started and where fandom's roots are, and the respect that we afford to creators in fandom spaces, because they can't be published, because they might not want to be published. Some people only want to be fanfic writers, and that's fine, and they deserve to be respected for that and not have their work made off for money by other people. It's just not cool, dudes. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the next couple days. I'm assuming that it's permanently not Manacled. I'm talking about Onyx and Elm's stuff. I'm assuming her stuff is gonna be permanently taken off the internet. She's probably only gonna share it with the people that she's friends with now, which is how fan fiction used to be, but pre-internet. But there's other people who are also threatening to take their fan fiction off. There's another author who's pretty prevalent who's threatening. She's on TikTok and she's publicly the writer of this fic, and she's threatening to take it off. There's a lot. Now there's people who are downloading these fics because they want to keep them for themselves. They're their favorite story. They want to share it with friends, whatever. That's perfectly fine. That's often how you keep history alive within fandom spaces, is by downloading things and keeping it yourself and archiving it yourself. Archive of Our Own is only as strong as its lawyers, essentially, and so it's not bad to download things and keep it for yourself. But stop binding books and selling them. Binding them's really cool. Don't sell them. Don't give them away for raffle. Don't sell something else with this. You know what I mean? Don't sell a bag of chips for $30 and then also sell them just stop it. Just stop doing that. If you're on Etsy or eBay or any of these other websites that list people's stuff, and you see a book binding of a fan fiction and you know it's a fan fiction, report it. Report it to Etsy or whatever. You can leave a comment for the bookbinders. Be kind, but you can tell them, hey, this isn't cool, this is illegal, please stop. don't attack anybody, don't go after anybody. I don't want you to like leave them alone. But if you are one of the people that are participating in purchasing these books, because there's an audience who's purchasing these, it's not just the people who are bookbinding, it's the people who are buying, okay? If you're a part of the audience buying these books, if you're a part of the audience selling these books, if you are in any way facilitating this, please stop. We're eventually going to tread into a territory where we get shut down in some way. You know what I mean? But thank you for listening to my rant about fan fiction and fandom spaces. Please obey the law. Please respect your fandom people. Respect the authors that are doing the like creative, emotional, and time labor that they're spending on these things. Please treat them with respect. You cannot like a fanfic. You can find it morally wrong, or there's a lot of really bad fanfic, okay? That's not what I'm saying here. There's a lot of really bad fanfic. There's a lot of stuff that shouldn't reach the light of day. I'm aware of the meme fanfics that get published. I'm aware of the people who make fun of the fanfic that's bad, and that is fine because once again it is free and creative use. But anyway, it comes down to this: don't sell stuff that isn't yours. Basically, stop breaking copyright law. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe down below. If you want more content like this, leave me a comment. I have no idea if this is new information for people or not. This is probably not, but thanks for listening. I hope you have a better day. Please don't delete your fan fiction, but if you do, it's totally within your rights as a creative fanfic author. I love you all. Have a good night. Leave my library. Goodbye.